and I'm back with another one of my templates and sort of tutorial videos. So yeah, this one is all about sort of videos. So again, it's a really good one to use for sort of your watching lists and sort of the movies that you're going to be watching through December. But as with the other videos, although I've used the Christmas colour palette for all of these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be used at Christmas, so you can use them for documenting at any point in the year. It's just that I've kind of created them with the sort of December documenting in mind. So in this kit there's going to be a few little bits and pieces. So we've got a 6x8 sort of stacker kind of style template, so you've got just a repeated pattern of the videos, and then just the labels of each video is kind of coloured in a different colour. So that's kind of one version. Then we've got there's going to be there's a pink and a grey version too, to kind of just keep things a bit more simple. And again, as I mentioned with I think the phones maybe, that there's no reason why you couldn't have your kids colour these in, you know, so the ones that are a little bit more plain, if you have kids, you could sit down with them and they could colour these in, and you know, then you can write on top anything really. It doesn't, you know, you don't necessarily even need to have anything to do with videos. You could just write down, like on the little labels, you could put like their age, or you know, how old they were when they did this, or their name, you know, get them to write their name on one of them, and then just kind of have that in as another little thing in your album. But yeah, so it might be nice to get the kids involved with the sort of more plainer templates, because there's a bit more scope for them to do something with them there. Likewise with the more colourful ones, then you know, you've got options to do all kinds of different things with these 6x8 ones in particular. I wrote a little list this time because last time I kept forgetting things that I sort of finished it. I was like, I meant to say that and I meant to say this. But yeah, the main thing I'm thinking with these guys is that you could stamp movie titles onto these labels. So that was the kind of main thing I was thinking. I had this stamp which I think it was on Amazon. I think it was from like a sort of a Japanese shop, but it's this big, great big monster of a stamp, and you can basically, there's the alphabet all on it, so you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. So you can kind of use this to sort of create your words and then sort of stamp it. So that's quite fun, because that's quite a small font on there, so you can kind of get quite a lot of use out of that. So you could kind of stamp some movie titles on the little labels using this. You could also always use like a Dymo label maker. Might be quite fun, because that'd be quite a sort of dramatic difference, because that sort of black would look quite sort of nice against, like as a colour contrast against the colours. That would look quite cool. Also, you know, there's puffy alphas and things like that. Obviously most of us are probably going to struggle a little bit with that, because the puffy alphas generally are a little bit bigger, and you only kind of have a small amount of space here. But that, you know, you can get Felicity Jane do still sell, I think, while they're still open, they do still sell those tiny little ones. Don't have any to hand with me at the moment, but they're like little tiny squares, little puffy ones, so they're really small and great for this kind of thing. Little white ones, and I think they did black ones as well, which would really work. Another possibility is that you could use little numbers, and then you could kind of cut these into doors, and then behind them you could have your films. So there's 3 options that are kind of fully you know, there's a full video here for each. So you could use these like 1, 2, 3 and then fold them over. So it could be like perhaps what you've even watched, like Christmas movies that weekend maybe. You know, you might be able to squeeze in 3 Christmas movies. So you could do a little door 1, 2, 3, and then you could pop your either a screenshot of the video behind, or you could put like some journaling. You know, there's a few options here. You could also do the same thing with the half, sort of the doors that have kind of been cut off a little bit, but it will probably be better with those 3, because they're kind of fully intact ones. What else have I written on here? I was like, I need my list. Oh yeah, printing on transparency or like acetate is quite cool. So I did this just so you could kind of see It's kind of plain, so you can kind of see how that looks. I printed this on a transparency, which looks really neat actually. So you still get quite a lot of the light grey, but it's very kind of subtle. I just really like the look of that. So that's quite cool as well, because that could just be a go-between page or like a entry page to you talking about Christmas movies. So you could, you know, just pop like a number on here for like whatever day of the month it is, and then have you turn your page and have a whole page of journaling maybe on movies, you know. So it could just be a kind of little go-between, which is quite neat. So yeah, I did like that as an idea. It does look nice and acetate as well. My printer's playing up at the moment, which is typical, so I can't show you that. But yeah, it's quite good that you can sort of print on a few different things, so it does really work. What else? So corresponding numbers, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, hinges for doors. Yep. Okay, that's good. Okay. Like, I think I've covered kind of what I wanted to say about this guy. So yeah, so what I'm thinking is I'm going to try and use this dude to stamp some movie titles on, so you can kind of see what that looks like. I will find the link to this on Amazon. Yeah, I'll see if I can track it down. It was a while ago when I bought it, but I'm sure they have sort of things like this around. But yeah, I'll see if I can find the link, and then I'll drop it in the kind of blurb below. Okay, so yeah, so I'll play with that a little bit, do some stampy. This one is one of the actual video. I made some video cassette box covers. I went down a whole rabbit hole of like the 1980s and JVC, which is very exciting. Some of us are quite worried about how many of them I recognised. But yeah, so this is like basically I've created a silhouette file for this as well. So we've got a front and a back. I've sized them, so basically after a lot of trial and error, because I initially sized them the same size, and then I printed them out and was like, oh, it's got no folding room. But basically I've sized them the same size, so you can kind of fold these in, glue them, and make a little pocket that then we can sort of slide a bigger VHS into, which is quite neat. So I can show you that. That's my plan. I'm also pondering at the moment maybe doing some stitching on that too, which might be quite nice, and it'll just sort of sturdy it up a little bit for the glue, you know, it kind of hold it together quite nicely, and it will add a little bit of texture too, so everything's not so flat. And then we can kind of talk about possibilities of, like, you know, journaling on the white space, adding big numbers for your day, etc. Using these guys to like pop it in your album. So yeah, there's a whole thing on that. And then lastly, we've got these guys, which I've just cut out of the silhouette. So these are the die cut videos. Again, I've got a front and a reverse, so we can sandwich those together. And I've left a label space here for movie titles, and then a label space in the back for journaling. And yeah, just kind of like a little box here if you wanted to either add an embellishment or add a screenshot of the movie. So yeah, we got options. So first I'll start with this guy. So yeah, I'll just clear these away, and then I'll start showing you how to kind of what I'm going to do with these. We can just use this as a kind of test really for the ideas. Okay, I'll just be a sec. Okay, and I'm back. Right, I've just kind of got out some bits. So I just wanted to kind of get ready. Yeah, so I thought of a couple of Christmas movies. I thought, well, I'll start with For Christmas. So what I've kind of established is that 6 is kind of the maximum you're probably going to get across. So if you kind of bear that in mind, then you might need to, you know, if you had like the holiday or something, then you might need to kind of break that up into like 2 lines. I also found this, I think it's a Citrus Twist little stamp set. So I thought I could probably do like Elf or something out of that. So it can kind of test out some slightly, still small, but slightly bigger stamps as well, just to kind of see how that looks. And then also, I mean, I'm not sticking them down because I'm not insane, but I have some enamel dots, and I did sort of think that might look quite cool as well, actually, like, you know, a little cluster of enamel dots on one might look really neat. But yeah, these are expensive. So I wonder if I've got some, I might have a little look around. I think I've got some drops somewhere, so we could do that, because that's like cheaper. We don't want to be testing with expensive stuff, okay? Just so you know, I'm not made of money. But yeah, so I thought, well, we'll try this. I'm now thinking, do I spell Arthur right? Why do I do this? Why am I like this? Arthur. Oh, let's see. So yeah, other things to know about this guy. If you leave blank spaces on it, it will sort of get all smushy. So you kind of have to be a bit aware to test and also sort of ungunk it when it gets a bit gunky, as you're kind of, if you're stamping quite a bit, you have to be kind of careful with it because it can get a bit like, you know, grimed up around the edges. So, and it also does have numbers on it as well. It's got a few like, what we got, like forward slashes, there's like a little plus sign. Yeah, there's a few, like a little full stop. So there's a few hashtags. So there's a few little extra bits on it as well, and a set of numbers. So yeah, it's quite handy little thing. I've used it a few times here and there, and I really enjoy using it. It's quite a neat little little guy. So let's just see. You just kind of do have to give it a little bit of a rock, but not too much. Arthur. Okay, cool. So yeah, let's see. So this is all investigation, and you're very much along for the ride. The only issue with this is you can't kind of, you know, your placement is your placement. You put it down, it takes your chances. That's not too bad. And because there's not enough room for Christmas, I'm thinking we'll do for Xmas. So yeah, I'm just going to take the excess off as I go. So let's do, so I just need to move those to the blanky squares. It's best, I found also as well, if you kind of count out your letters and then move it inward, so if you can, so it's sort of symmetrical, so you've got an empty space at either end, because if you do like a load of empty spaces and then the word, it's really hard to get the pressure right. So it definitely makes more sense to move it into the sort of centre if you can, as much as possible, because yeah, it does get a bit wobbly when you're trying to do stuff. Now I'm like gonna talk and do the alphabet. Xmas. Where's the A? And it's also, it's quite funny, you're kind of, a lot of the times you're sort of trying to work out what's the quickest route back to the letter you want. So I find myself sort of trying to spy the, quicker that way. Yeah, trying to spy the letter on either side and be like, how quickly can I roll to it? The thing is, it was quite stiff when I first got it. But now it's pretty good actually, it's fairly smooth. Just need to be careful with your fingers when you're kind of rolling it around, because you can sometimes accidentally end up moving the other letters as well if you get a bit like gung-ho, so you kind of have to just roll them around. But that is why we do testers first. Xmas. Yeah, never just stick it on the thing. Yeah, see, this is what I mean. Well, that's good in a way, because I couldn't really explain it very well, so that sort of shows you. So just get a little bit of like kitchen roll or a baby wipe or something and just give that a little bit of a rub. So I'm just going to be a bit more gentle. But yeah, it's just not rolling it too much to the left and right. You still need to roll it a little bit, because obviously you want to get the ink on it, but you just can't go too crazy. Let's see how we do here. Whoop. Little bit of a wiggle, forward and back and left and right. There we go. Not bad at all. Rub, rub, rub. Yeah, so that's not too bad. So that's kind of come out okay. I'm quite pleased with that. So yeah, so basically that's an option. The spacing is a bit wild, but to be fair, it's no more wild than if you put it through a typewriter, which is another possibility. If you have a typewriter, then obviously roll that baby in and then yeah, pop your films on that way. That would look quite neat. Let's try with one of these. Whoops. Let's do elf. Whoops. E-L-F. Can you spell that? Oops. This is just a little lawn fawn thing, and it's really neat. I really like it. Oh, and just by the way, I'm using VersaFine. So just in case you wanted to know, it's the Onyx Black. And I find this is quite nice. It gives quite a, I can't remember who recommended it to me actually. Maybe it was Cherie. It gives up quite a nice, a kind of crisp edge. Yeah, I really like kind of how, and it stamps very dark as well, like it's a proper black, so it's really nice. Let's try elf over here. Let's just check what the crack is with this. Like, how far out am I gonna go? Just don't want to be like too far in the edge and then have it look really janky. Let's see. Oops. Boo-ba-da-boo. This is why I don't really stamp much, because I'm quite the psychopath when it comes to how uniform I want things to be. It's taken me a long time to sort of deal with the fact that if you stamp, it's never going to be perfect. But I'm learning, but equally I'm a bit like, I can't handle it. I don't do very well with it. I mean, this isn't going to be perfect at all. I've gone way too close to the edge, but whatever. As it is, we're testing, we're learning. It's all good. And also, the best thing about digitals, if you fuck it up, print it again. Whoop. Oh, go. That's absolutely shambolic. But never mind. Good lord. Right. Okay, well, there we go. We know what works. This fits. So, yeah. I mean, you could probably squeeze. I bet you could squeeze. You could probably squeeze like Home Alone in. Alone. There's an extra letter, isn't it? I'm thinking four will work. Would alone. At a pinch. Maybe not. We can try. Let's try. Let's see what happens. This is going to be a very long video. Strap in. Oh dear. Alone. Don't need an F. Oops. A-L-O. And the E is already out. Let's see. Is that the H? Hello. Let's see. But this is it. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of here for the learning, you know? It's all good fun. So I do want to kind of test these things out. A lot of times I just test all this stuff out like on my own, you know, like, and if it doesn't work then I just don't kind of do anything with it. But this is all helpful. It's helpful for you to see it as well as it is for me to do it. So, you know, I gotta get used to being on camera. Messing everything up. So let's see. That was a bit wibbly wobbly. Oh, that's better. Maybe I made it wibble. Yeah, we're gonna have to, some overlapping is gonna have to happen here, I think. Let's try. See what alone looks like. But yeah, I'm normally way more, like when I do stamping, I'm like quite, you know, purposeful about it all. I will sit here and take quite a long time about it because I want to make sure I get it right. So this, you're seeing me really, this is really like imperfect madness. But that's fine, you know, it's good to play, so let's play. I quite like the look of this though, even though it is overlapping a bit, it's quite fun, a bit more interesting. And you know, if I took my time on it, I could get it a bit more, everything a bit more straight. But as I say, it's all just fun and learning, so that's quite neat. So yeah, so I mean that does work. So if you do have a smaller one, it will go in there, so that's quite cool. Let's see what else we could try. Some of this guy. Let's put the lid on that so it doesn't dry out. So let's do. Oh, these are very satisfying, these things. You can get these off of Amazon as well. I do love it. yeah, it's a lot of fun to play with. So let's see. You just have to really kind of squeeze to get the to get like a nice mark on it. If you're a bit gentle, you don't quite, it doesn't quite punch as hard, so you end up with a kind of like a little pale thing. So you kind of, yeah, you do have to kind of like properly go at it. Let's just trim this guy down. Oops. And this is quite retro as well to do on a video. Whoop. So that's quite neat. Yeah, I say retro, it's quite depressing. When you start looking at things, you're like, oh, 1980s, and you're like, oh my god, I recognise that. I recognise that. I was like, oh, this is really quite bad. There were quite a few when I was looking for kind of little VHS inspiration sort of things. I was looking at all these, yeah, like little JVC and TDK video covers, and I was just thinking, I recognise quite a few of these. Kodak. It's like, blimey, yeah, old, so old. Very sad. Whoops. But there we go. That's quite fun. So yeah, I mean, these are kind of just to show you what is possible. Obviously, you can have a play, you know, in your own time, and I'm sure you can come up with some really cool ideas as well. You know, like, this is by no means the be all and end all of possibilities. Like, we've got there's a lot of options. Another one, I think I might just have this still in a random December date. But you know, just adding date stamps, adding date stamps to like the little corners and stuff would be quite fun. You know, it all depends on kind of how you want to use it in your album. But I do quite like the idea of you know, having the kind of movies on the covers. I also quite like the idea of cutting out with a craft knife or on your silhouette a little door, and then folding that open, and then behind it having another piece of paper sandwiched with you know, a movie cover behind it perhaps. That's quite neat. And then equally, you don't even need to put anything on these. You could just embellish them with like loads and loads of little embellishments. You could do like I was saying about the enamel dots, you could do like little stars like all over the label bits. Like, there's quite a few different options available to you for what you could do with these. They'll all be fun, you know. And yeah, like I said earlier, like, get the kids involved would be a lot of fun as well, to sort of have them help you out. Sticking stickers on things, you know, would be a lot of fun. So they're just templates that are kind of set up for you to kind of use them however you want. So quite neat. And then yeah, also the idea of popping just like little numbers on them would be quite cool as well. And then having perhaps, so you'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then on the next page have journaling maybe, and then do your top 10 favourite videos of all time, like your top 10 favourite Christmas movies, you know, and then just have that as a separate thing, but then the corresponds to little numbers on here would be quite nice. So, you know, there's a few different kind of things you could do with this, so it would just be quite a nice little addition to any kind of documenting you're doing. So we'll move away from this one now. I also wanted to punch the holes in as well, just to show you kind of how that looked with the holes punched in it too. So you're kind of just losing the kind of corners of just these two. So if you popped a puffy alpha in that or something, it would still be okay. You know, you'd still have clearance. So yeah, we'll move from this to now let's do the VHS pocket. And then what we'll do is I'll show you how I'll kind of put that together, and then we can stitch it up with a sewing machine, and then also we can see what the VHS sliding inside it would look like if you pop that in your album. Okay, so I'll just clear this up and then I'll be back in a sec. All right, bye. Okay, and I'm back, and it's the next day, hence the reason the lighting might look a little different, because yesterday when I went to do this next part, the heavens opened and it was just insane. So yeah, it just was dark, too dark to film. So I'm pleased that I'm sort of in between the moments of torrential rain at the moment to be able to do this bit, so fingers crossed it stays sunny for at least until I can finish the video. So yeah, so I'm going to do this one next. So I've got this pocket to make, and I've just printed out a copy of the actual video cassette as well, which will then fit inside this pocket I'm going to make. So I've sized this to be slightly smaller than the actual pocket, and it sort of leaves enough room for sort of stitching around the edge and gluing and everything like that. So these are all different die cut files for the silhouette, and they're all kind of sized the right size. So basically this is sized larger than this, so you have room for the sort of the folds of the paper to glue it in as the pockets. This is sized slightly smaller to be able to fit in here, and then what you can do is, I've just done it for the pink one, but what you can do is you can add any of the other colours into your silhouette software and then basically match the sizing of the items. So if you just check the sizing of each of these, then you can just mirror that on the any of the other colours you want to use, and it'll work the same. So yeah, let's get cracking. They probably don't come up on the camera, but on here I've got tiny little perforated lines that I've added just so I can kind of see like where I'm folding. So let's do the longest one first. Now it has this tiny little what is it called? It's like a boning thing. It's really small. It's from like a miniature envelope punch, but I love it because I have very small hands. So I find it helps if I have something smaller to hold. Hence the reason my scissors are quite small as well. I am kind of repeatedly amazed by the sizes of giant scissors that people use for things. I just think, wow, I'm massively impressed because I can't do it. And some people have those massive orange Fiskars ones and they do like really intricate stuff with them. And I just think like there's no way on earth I would be able to do that. These are the biggest scissors I own. It's nuts. Right, let's just do the other sides. So yeah, I'm just doing it this way as well, so I kind of get a nice fold and I can kind of see where I'm folding. So you have to be a little bit careful sometimes with these folding things because, you know, depending on the paper quality you're using and sort of what you're using, sometimes you can go a bit wrong. I've had like really lovely pattern paper before just like absolutely shredded when I've tried to score the corners. It's such a shame, like with envelope punches and things, you know. And there's like this perfect level of like folding without being too aggressive. And it's the same with transparencies. Like if you try and fold a transparency, like sometimes they just tear and it's so depressing because you're like, I've done all the hard work of like making the thing. Then you go to do the final bit and it's just like, no. Dear, I remember ruining a DT project I did once before and I was absolutely gutted because I just tore a transparency in half. Right, let's see. Okay, here we go. So let's just smush these down a little bit more. I say that and the light's going funny again, isn't it? Ugh, such an annoying thing. This, like, well, trying to film in the UK and any blooming season's a pain in the arse, but winter and sort of autumn is just a nightmare. Right, let's do this. Oh, hello printer, chatting away. Oops. This thing's great as well. Ali recommended it, which is why I sort of went to check it out. But it's from scrapbook.com, and it's just really, it's very, actually, for one of, I'm not really a fan of these sorts of things, tape sort of running things, but this one's really nice, and it gives like a really crisp line, because some of them are crap, so I don't tend to bother, but I watched her use hers a few times and it seemed to be pretty good, so I thought, well, I'll give it a whirl. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I bought some extra cartridges for it for Christmas because I was like, I don't want to run out in the middle of doing my December album, I'll be gutted. So because it's really handy for just doing things quickly rather than using, I used to use double-sided tape for everything and it took an age. So I've scored that slightly wobbly so the lines aren't quite great here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim that into a straight line. So let's just slide you up. Doobie-doo. Oops, make sure I've got it straight and neat. Right, this is gonna have to bite. go. Oh, is it done the end? What's it doing? Do I just need to trim you again? The blade's going on this thing. Ugh. And it's such a pain in the ass. I need to get a new one. I just need to get it off of Amazon or something, I think. But yeah, it's just starting to like not do things neatly. It's a real annoying thing. Or it's like doing that thing where like it sort of shreds the edges a little bit so it doesn't make a smooth cut. Whoops. It just makes like they're all like fuzzy, so you have to then go along. Well, you don't have to go along, but I'm insane, so I'm like I have to go along and just sort of trim off the fluff because it's just not. I mean, it is very old. It's done me very well, to be fair. Like, but yeah, I do need to get some new blades for it because it's just doing my head in. Right, so here we go. So now we've got our pocket all glued. Just check inside that actually. That looks pretty good, and those corners look pretty sharp. And yeah, so then we basically have the video and then the box and then the pocket and then the video fits inside it. So yeah, what I'm thinking is there's kind of enough scope here with the pocket for you could do a couple of these, and you could do like we did here. You could stamp like, you know, today we watched Home Alone and then stamp the date, or you could just add journaling on here, or there's a reverse of this as well with like a big sort of space on it for adding sort of journaling or whatever you like really, so you can kind of sandwich the front with the back. I kind of haven't done that yet because I'm not sure how I'm going to be feeling on the day. This is kind of like foundation stages, so I'm thinking, you know, I want to put a full page photo on the back, or I might want to put the back on it and then add some journaling on the computer, in which case then I can just print that out and it's sort of good to go and I can just stick it to the back. Also thinking about like how to get it in and out of the envelope, you could totally add a little tab on here, would be really nice, and stitch that on, and I'd just give you the option to pull it out. Again, I will wait until I put the back on it before I do that because I want to be able to have the front and back and then stitch through both to kind of make it super secure and sort of sturdy. But what I can do, and what I did say I was going to do, was just give this a little stitch, like a little L-shaped stitch, just to kind of hold it all together. And while on the subject of sort of sewing and things, let me just grab my sewing machine. Try and get that in camera as much as possible. Yeah, basically, I know like some people are a little bit nervous about sewing machines and sewing with sort of paper and things, and I certainly was. So I spoke to my mum about like what I should get. She recommended this, which is a Singer, and it's a Singer Simple, and basically it's like a really stripped back sewing machine, so there's like only a couple of options on it, and it really kind of, it's got all everything's like numbered about how you sort of thread and where you put your bobbin and everything, so it's like really sort of super simple and straightforward, because I needed that. But it's also really kind of, because it is quite basic, it doesn't tend to cause me any trouble when I'm going through papers, transparencies, anything like that. I think being careful with where you put your glue is a tip, I would say, because if you glue things all the time, loads and loads of glue, your needle is going to get all gunged up, and that's when it's going to start catching on things, and that's when it's going to start ripping. So I'd be quite careful with the glue you use and how much glue you use, just if you're going to be stitching lots. You know, hold things together with washi tape or something. I tend to put little like detacked sort of strips of washi and just have them on the edge of my sewing machine, so I can kind of use that to like hold a transparency to a piece of paper. If I'm going to do like a zigzag stitch or something, I'll do that, and then I can just kind of pull it off as I stitch through. I do that a lot to just kind of like hold something temporarily together. And also I tend to use the manual sort of arm on it quite a lot. I don't tend to use the pedal that much because I want a sort of sharper line, or like a straighter line, and I find that if I use the pedal I'm just all over the place unless I'm doing something really big, in which case fine, because it's going to take forever to do it manually. But I will say that if you manually turn, it really does make your life a lot easier in terms of like getting a straight edge on things, and you can kind of be quite purposeful and neat with it. Like I can stitch along here now, and then when it comes to twisting to stitch up, I'll get a really sharp corner on here because I can lift and put the foot down and place everything just perfectly. And I find that doing that manually, I can get really nice sharp corners. So yeah, kind of also tautness is quite a big thing. So like I've got my thread here at the back from the bobbin and from the top of the needle, and I'm going to push my got the foot up at the moment. I'm just going to find like the corner where it basically wants to start, and I use the little lines at the bottom to kind of guide me, and then I'm going to drop that foot down. But before, as I make my first sort of couple of manual turns, I'm going to hold both of those pieces of thread taut at the back, and I find that if I do this for like at least the first couple of turns, it just means that there's no slack in any of the thread, so we're getting this really sort of sharp and taut pull here, so there's no reason for it to start looping or dragging or snagging, because I'm just pulling as it goes in for that first turn. I'm also just correcting the placement, because as the needle goes in it does just twist that paper slightly, but I'm just turning here again, so I'm going in for my second one, still holding on to the back here, and then what I'm going to do is just on this third one now, it's a bit more secure, so then I can let go. And now I can just concentrate on kind of guiding it through and getting a straight line. So I'm just kind of pulling and pulling and pulling. And then I'm just going to keep doing this, basically, until I get to the end here. I'll just do it quite quickly. But I know that obviously there's going to be people watching this going, why didn't you just use the pedal? And I'm like, because I'm crap at it. That's why. So, you know, you can use the pedal. I'm not stopping you. But if you're nervous about using the pedal, or you know that you're a bit sort of, you get carried away and like zoom off, or you're not very confident with it, or you want a super duper straight line that you can kind of constantly adjust as you go, this is the way. And also this is the way to get a really nice sharp corner, because I'll show you in a second as we keep going to the end here. I'm just correcting that slightly again. Just gonna keep on chugging. I know it's slower, but you know, I don't really care. It doesn't really bother me because I'm happier with the end result. I think if I did it with the pedal, I'd be just really annoyed with myself, because I know what I'm like, and I am quite a sort of weird perfectionist when it comes to certain things, so I really don't like it when things kind of go a bit wobbly. I like everything to be quite sharp, so yeah, so I find this is just better for me, and it still only takes like a couple of minutes. It's not like I'm not here for 7 hours doing this, you know, I'm still talking to you now and I'm doing it. Now I'm getting close to the end here, so I'm just kind of conscious of how many more turns I want before I get. We've got one more in here just to get to that edge. So now my needle is down and it's actually in the paper, so I'm going to lift up the foot and then I'm going to twist my paper because the foot is up, and now see what I'm going to do is use these little guiding lines again to get a straight line on here. The needle's still down in the paper, I'm going to drop that foot down, and then I'm going to go and just start twisting again, whoops, and then grab that back because it's just going to start looping. There we go. Whoop. And there we go, now I'm on the longer edge, but I've got a really sharp line there that I've just made by just doing that twist and pull, so it really does make like a big difference. So yeah, so there we go. So what I'll do is I'll just disappear for a second, and then like finish this line, because you know you actually talk to me the whole time doing that, and then I'll be back in a second. I can just show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, bye. Okay, and there we are. So yeah, I don't know, let's see if I can get this to kind of show up, but that's the corner there. So yeah, you can get like a really nice sharp corner if you do it that way. It just comes out really nicely. So yeah, I'm just pleased with how that does like a nice line. And as I say, like obviously if you're really good with a sewing machine, then you don't need to do any of that, because you already know what you're doing, and you can just zoom along with your pedal and you'll have it done in like 2 seconds. But I just wanted to mention that for anyone that's sort of thinking, oh, well, I don't know how to sew, or like, oh, I know I'm not going to be very good with a sewing machine, because you don't necessarily have to use the pedal. You know, there are ways around it for us people that like want to get a really nice straight line and know that you're just never going to get close to that. It's going to be like woo, all over the place if you do it with the pedal. Cool, so there we go. So basically now let's just, whoop, there we go. So we've got this little pocket here now. Oh, and it's just a little bit stiff because I've stitched that corner. There we go. That's that little guy. Let's just pop in there. There we go. Whoops. So yeah, it's a little bit more rigid with the stitching. That's because I've got it going in particularly straight. There we go. For some reason I wasn't going in very straight. I mean, you don't have to do the stitching, because it does make it a bit stiffer, but it will loosen up over time. But it's just, it gives it like a nice bit of, I just like the texture of having the little bit of extra, that thing there, you know, I just think it looks quite smart. So, but yeah, it will get easier to get that in and out. It's just you obviously have to go a bit straight. Then what you can do once you have your kind of pocket all sorted, is you could, you know, add journaling or anything you want on here. You could stamp on here, and then you can also attach this little strip to it, and then that just means that that gives you the option then to put that in your album as like a pocket, as a page. Then you can also do anything you want on here, so you could stamp on these white bits, you could date stamp on here, you could stamp like my Christmas movies, you could put a big number for like whatever, you know, whatever, oh, it's my foot, like whatever day it is, so you could put like, you know, that looks quite fun, you could have a big old number on there. If you've got a big giant number, you could put that on there, you could glue that on. You know, equally, let's just see what we've got, like smaller numbers. You know, you could pop a little thing on there, that might look nice. Equally, you could do that on the reverse here. You know, you could put that there, you could put it at the top. Yeah, kind of do whatever you want really. You've got kind of options, you can embellish on this, cover it in embellishments if you want, you know, stamp on here. Yeah, so there we go, that's kind of like that little guy. So hopefully that just kind of gives you an idea of how you can use this as quite a fun way to kind of document your sort of movies. Then I also have the smaller versions of these. This is what the back looks like of this, by the way. There's a version of this for you to use on the back. So you can kind of have like a small, you know, that's the kind of reverse side, so you can sandwich the two of them. So you've got your kind of little front and your back of your video there. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly show you these, because I did this, I was using scrap paper that I'd already kind of tested something on, so that's why the design's on the back as well. I like to use my scrap paper when I'm kind of testing things, so I don't ruin nice stuff. Brand new, shiny new cardstock. Show you how I roll. I used to use it for sort of cleaning stamps on and stuff like that, so that's quite a sort of a good way to use little scraps of paper that you've kind of already printed on but perhaps don't want to use. Oops, get that quite straight there. Oops. Let's just see this. Ooh. And by doing this as well, they end up quite sturdy when you kind of have them back to back like that. It makes that quite a nice thing. Also, what you could always do is before you glue them together, you could kind of put a little something in here. You could put a little tab in here. You know, you could do something like that. You could slide these out of little pockets. Again, you can do what we've done on the 6x8, and you can stamp on these. You could have a load of them, you could make a little pocket, and then you could have a load of them that you could just put in there, and then they would have all the names of your movies on them, and then yeah, like a little bit of ribbon or something attached to the top would be quite cute, and then they could all just pull out of a little pocket. That'd be a really lovely way to do something like that. And then again, on the back you can have a little box here with a picture of the movie, like the screenshot of the movie or the movie poster, and then you could just put like, you know, watch this with and who you watched it with, and then like what day, you know, maybe what your snacks were, something like that. And you can just have those all just stacked in a little bundle. Would look quite cute, because there's one of these in every colour from the kit as well, so there's a little cluster of them. But yeah, so there we go. So that's kind of just like a few options of things that you can do really. So quite a few different kind of ideas there, and then like also mentioning the transparency, you know. So we've got kind of options here for this little kit, this little bundle. It's totally up to you what you want to do with it really. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to come on and show you the possibilities. Any questions about anything at all, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. And yeah, I hope you have enjoyed these little videos I've been doing. There might be one more to come. There might be another kind of music related one, sort of cassettes, or I was going to make maybe potentially like a little boom box, because I've made one before as a die cut that I'm thinking I could maybe line out and then use that as like a little pocket or something. So that's another possibility. I'm just going to see how I am with time and things, because obviously I'm conscious that the closer we get to December, the less I'm going to be able to do this and the more I'm going to have to concentrate on putting my album together. But obviously I'll be filming those videos as well, so you won't miss me for too long. Yeah, so there we go. Okay, lots of ideas, and feel free to put your ideas in the comments below as well. Like, you know, if you see something else that you could think might be quite a fun way to use these, then yeah, feel free to mention it, because it's always nice to have everyone kind of put in their ideas, and feedback is always nice to hear. So yeah, have a good one, have a lovely day, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care, guys. Bye.